Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Phillies Extra, the baseball show from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm Scott Lauber, and I write about the Phillies and Major League Baseball. And whether you're watching at Inquirer.com, YouTube, Facebook, or X, or listening to our podcast on Apple or Spotify, I'm thankful that you're spending some of your time with us. My guest this week is Matt Strahm, a key figure in the Phillies bullpen and quite simply one of the most interesting people in the clubhouse. First, he's one of only 21 major leaguers who were born in North Dakota, a group that includes former Angels center fielder Darren Erstad and Cleveland slugger Travis Hafner. But Strahm has the second most wins above replacement of any North Dakota-born pitcher ever, trailing only Rick Helling, who, depending on your age, you might remember, as a 20-game winner for the Rangers back in 1998. Strahm also has a custom-designed line of gloves made by Victus Sports, the King of Prussia-based company that's really more known as a bat manufacturer. But for Strahm, it's a family affair. His 4-year-old daughter has come up with a few of the designs for the gloves that Strahm wears. And Strahm is a huge baseball card collector. I mean, massive. To know him is to see him with boxes of cards in his locker. He even hosts a television show called The Card Life, which is dedicated to the hobby. And he's in the process of helping none other than Bryce Harper start a card collection. Sounds like maybe Strahm is bitten off more than he can chew. So I definitely wanted to ask him about that. But for as much as there is to talk about off the field, and we do aim to be as evergreen as possible around here, since this is a weekly show and baseball is a daily sport, Strahm is absolutely essential to the only acceptable goal for the 2025 Phillies, which is winning a World Series championship. The 33-year-old lefty is in his third season now in Philadelphia, and when I think about Strahm's time here, I think back to the night he actually signed with the Phillies. It was in December of 2022, and officials from all 30 teams were gathered in San Diego at the winter meetings. Word began to spread throughout the hotel that the Phillies were in agreement with Strahm on a 2-year, $15 million contract. $7.5 million per season. And as I reached out to sources across the league to canvass their opinions on the signing, I got a lot of raised eyebrows. Some people thought it was an overpayment, given Strahm's somewhat spotty health history and career pattern of every other year's success. Well, let's dig into some of the numbers. Going into the weekend, there were 250 pitchers who were used primarily as relievers who had thrown at least 75 innings since the beginning of the 2023 season. Of those 250, Strahm ranked fourth in walks and hits per innings pitched, WHIP for short, at 0.958. Sixth in strikeouts with 241. 10th in innings with 197 and a third. Tied for 24th in appearances with 172. And don't forget, he was in the Phillies starting rotation for about 6 weeks at the beginning of the 2023 season. Tied for 27th in opponents' batting average at 200. Tied for 29th in opponents' OPS at 600. 33rd in ERA at 2.83. And tied for 34th in strikeouts per 9 innings with 11. And if you like wins above replacement as sort of a tidy stat to indicate overall value, well, Strahm was fourth among those 250 relievers at 5.8 WAR. According to Baseball Reference. Only Tanner Scott, Brian Abreu, and Tyler Holton were more valuable. Indeed, Strahm has been a constant in a Phillies bullpen that's really cycled through late-inning relievers, from Sir Anthony Dominguez to Craig Kimbrell to Gregory Soto to Jeff Hoffman to Orion Kerkering to Carlos Estevez to Jordan Romano and even Jose Alvarado, who's been up and down and up again, and now is nearing the end of an 80-game drug suspension that will permit him to pitch for the Phillies down the stretch, but not in the postseason. But here's something that Strahm has never really been, a closer. And yet, Rob Thompson was using him to finish games and even close out a few. He has 6 saves this season. Well, that all changed at the trade deadline when the Phillies acquired Jhoan Duran from the Twins for 23-year-old righty Mick Abel and 18-year-old A-ball catcher Eduardo Tait, both of whom are top 100 prospects in the sport. So I wanted to talk to Strahm about his uncommon consistency over the last 3 seasons, relative especially to other relievers across baseball. And I also wanted to ask him about the Duran effect, not only when the Phillies are leading in the 9th inning, but also on the rest of the bullpen. because, and I wrote about this a little bit in last Sunday's Inquirer, it enables Thompson to more clearly define a role for Strahm and Kerkering in particular in the 7th and 8th innings. And it gives the Phillies more confidence in general that they can effectively shorten the game because they now have this fire-breathing, smoke-throwing closer waiting back there in the 9th inning. And I don't have to remind anyone that the Phillies were done in by the bullpen in the last 2 postseasons. They blew late leads in games 3 and 4 of the 2023 NLCS in Arizona, which totally shifted the momentum of that series after the Phillies blew out the Diamondbacks in games 1 and 2 in Philly. And the bullpen couldn't hold a 1-0 lead for Zach Wheeler late in game 1 of the divisional round against the Mets last year in a gut-punching loss that I think set the tone for the rest of that series. So we talked about the state of the bullpen after the Duran trade and the David Robertson signing and much more, including baseball cards and Bryce Harper's burgeoning collection. Without further ado, then, here's my sit-down with Matt Strahm. Matt Strahm, welcome to Phillies Extra from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
So there are a bunch of reasons why I've been wanting to invite you as a guest. Mostly it's because I always enjoy talking to you, whether it's about pitching or baseball cards. And I should mention for people who don't know, you host a TV show, The Card Life, right? And it's dedicated to the collecting and the hobby. And we'll get to all of that and more here coming up. But I feel like we need to just start by talking about, the run that this bullpen is on, really that the Phillies overall have gotten on here lately. And, David Robertson joined the bullpen this week. Jose Alvarado is coming back in a few days. And I wanted to start with this. Can you kind of describe, as a guy who's down in that bullpen as a reliever, can you describe the impact on the rest of the group that kind of finally having a designated closer and one of the top 2 or 3 in the game to boot with Jhoan Duran has done back there, just having him back there in the 9th inning, kind of the impact that has on the rest of the group?
Yeah, I mean, obviously just knowing who's getting the ball in the 9th, it takes a little off the other 7 of us down there not wondering when. It just, instead of wondering 1 through 9, we're now wondering 1 through 8. So it just takes a little bit off our plate. That's I get the analytic side of baseball and all that, but I've always thought roles have a huge impact on a team just because there's a closer is just a different breed. They know how to get out of that corner when they get backed into it. And it's a different, those last 3 outs, I don't think you can find on a computer how difficult they are. And so to have that, it's no different than a setup man or a 7th inning man. I came up in Kansas City, who they're notorious for the 7, 8, 9. They had the HDH, and then I believe it was, who'd they go? The HDH was 14, and then in 15 they had Herrera, Matson, and Davis. And it was, it made life easy when that phone rang in the bullpen, and you knew if it was a 1 to 3 run lead, it was one of those 3, and then if it wasn't, it was the B guy. And so it definitely helps, and it helps you be prepared. And I don't know how much people pay attention to a bullpen, but you kind of look like a little beehive out there after about the 3rd inning, just everyone kind of moving around, just trying to be ready to get on the mound and get going. So just having the 9th inning locked down is a big help.
I know you've always said, 7th, 8th, 9th doesn't really matter to me. Heck, you were in the rotation when you got here first in 23 for about 6 weeks. But you probably don't have to manage the game quite as much along with Topper, right? You're probably not sitting there when the phone rings in the 7th inning and thinking, boy, I wonder if this is going to be for me, or is there a pocket of hitters coming around in the 8th or 9th that they might like me more for? When Duran's got the 9th, right? If it rings in the 7th or 8th, odds are it's either you or Kerkering that they probably want, right?
Yeah, and now it's, obviously Kirk being right-handed and me being left, it's pretty much the writing on the wall. Once that 7th inning comes, if the pocket is more lefty driven, it's going to be me. If it's more righty driven, it's going to be Kirk. And then once one of us has been fired in the pocket, I think they'll use the next one regardless. But it takes less stress. I don't want to call it stress because it's our job, but it just being prepared at any job, whether it's baseball or writing, the more prepared you are, the better things usually go for you.
Of
So
course.
if you can have a little more inkling to when it's going to be you, I think your performance is going to show.
I'm always interested in how a bullpen meshes together because it's the 8 of you down there separated from the rest of the team for 2.5, 3 hours for 9 innings, and it becomes kind of a little family, right? You said it's a little beehive of activity. What's Duran's personality like? How does he kind of fit with the group, and what sort of has stuck out to you about him in the first week or 10
I think
days or
it's only
so?
been a week, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's he's still in that like spring training mode, kind of like feeling everything out. These last couple days here in Cincy, he's kind of opening up a little more, but he's kind of just got a feel for the water the first week, and now we're starting to get a little more personality out of him. But I mean, we all know what we do for a job, and like you said, we get locked out there for 3 hours, so you got to get to know some guys, and yeah, he's fitting in great. Like I said, it's only been a week, so I'm sure we'll see more out of him, but he's starting to open up.
Last year, you guys did the hat thing, right? Where you threw the hats on the ground to
Yeah.
predict a home run. Do you guys have anything this year that's kind of developed?
I mean, we had a little bit early in the year. That was all Carlos Hernandez, and
Yeah.
then once he got DFA'd, we decided that that was going to end with him. That was his thing. So Uh, we've just been doing the hat game really. That's honestly, this is one of my favorite bullpens I've been a part of. Just how professional the guys are, and I mean, it's ready to take the ball whenever.
You you had some really good seasons in San Diego. You pitched well in Boston in 22. I don't know if you agree with me though that I think these 3 years with the Phillies have probably been the most consistent period stretch of your career. I would think in a job where year to year variability can be somewhat common. Why do you think? What has enabled you, I guess, to be as consistent as you've been since you've been here?
I mean, I credit. I mean, also going back to Boston, I feel like it kind of started
Yeah.
there with just my rehab. I had knee surgery in 2017 on my left knee, and then again in at the end of 20. And then 21 was kind of a grind for me to get back with my knee, kind of rush some things to try and make it back and put me behind the 8 ball a little bit. So the lockout honestly was a blessing in disguise for me to be able to get healthy and showcase my stuff healthy versus trying to find a job in October, 2 weeks after surgery. So that was a blessing, and I think I learned a lot in that time of rehab and how important the little stuff is. And the medical staff here in Philly is unbelievable. Same in Boston. I mean, Paul, our head trainer, came from Boston.
Yeah.
So I kind of when I left Boston and was looking to Philly, I called my trainer in Boston, asked him about Paul, and he had nothing but good things to say. And then getting here with Paul's staff, I work with Plum every day, and Plum, I owe that man a lot. But yeah, he's done wonders for me over these 3 years here to keep me on the field.
Okay, let me ask you a little bit about the gloves. So Victus, right, which is based in King of Prussia, known mostly for bat manufacturing, but from
Yep.
everything I've heard, maybe you helped nudge them a little bit into the glove game. Tell me a little bit about how that relationship started.
Yeah, so my agent was actually an original founder of Victus, and then when he got into the agent game, he kind of wanted to separate himself from bats and agents. He didn't want players feeling like I'm telling you to swing Victus because I'm a part owner in it. So he sold it out to his buddies that started Victus, and Jared and Ryan
Hmm.
are great dudes who they're baseball card collectors. And that's kind of how it started. When I signed here in Philly, my agent Alan was like, "Hey, I gotta drive you up to the Victus guys and show you what they do with cards." And so I went up there, opened some cards with them, and then just we kind of built a relationship on cards. And after 2 or 3 times being up at Victus, opening ridiculous amounts of baseball cards with them, I told them I was like, you guys need to get in the glove game because I'm in the breaking bat business, not swinging bats. So this off season, Jared shot me a text. My Wilson contract was up, and shot me a text and was like, "How serious are you about using our glove if we do it?" And I was like, "I'm all in." So I now have a locker full of
Yeah.
custom Victus gloves, and they've taken unbelievable care of me, and they've started something special too. So I think it was just last week they did a little mini release of a limited Japanese glove that sold out in 3 minutes, I think.
Right.
And then just this past Monday they posted the pencil glove, kind of off the Bryson Stott pencil bat that went viral after the Little League World Series. They made a glove version of it now, so.
So
It's,
are a lot of guys using Victus gloves now? Like, have you started a bit of a trend here with pitchers who want to get involved in that?
So I've seen a few people. I actually Duran with Boston, I believe, is using one out in center
Okay.
field, and then I've seen, I don't know if it's his gamer or not, but I've seen pictures of O'Neal Cruz in a Victus glove. I know Merrill Kelly's got some sick. Merrill Kelly had some sick ones when he was with Arizona with their purple and green
Yeah.
combo. So I know Merrill's got it, but no, I think it's something that's something spreading. And I mean, the Victus guys are just baseball nuts through and through. So if they're going to do something baseball, they're going to want to do it right. And they've taken their time on it. And I think they have a really good product that is going to satisfy a lot of consumers.
Everyone, had a lot of fun with the Declaration of Independence glove and all of that. But you've shared this with your daughter, right? I mean, hasn't she
Yeah.
designed some of your stuff, your gloves?
Yeah. So actually, that was a surprise to me through Victus. I was out in my deer stand one day, I guess, and my agent FaceTimed my wife with my daughter and was like, "Hey, Victus is going to get Strahm's gloves going," and they wanted to do one with my daughter and have her create it. So she surprised me with her own creation of my glove, and hopefully, I'm hoping to bust out a different glove for Players Weekend, but it's kind of flirting the line of legal or not. So if I can't do that one, I'll bust out Rens again for Players Weekend.
I thought you could use pretty much whatever you wanted now, right? Because the rules have been relaxed a bit. I know I've talked to Bryce about it. Like, I mean, and we all know what Bryce, like he doesn't really care. Like, as long as he wants it, he uses it. So
Yeah, I think
gloves
there
different.
might be a little too much white on my glove.
Got it.
So I've always made the argument, if a hitter's looking at my glove, which is over here, and I'm throwing over here, they're already going to lose that game anyways. So,
Right.
but we'll see. I got some plans to try make it not as white, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, let's talk baseball cards. I've got my top shirt on, and I've got to ask because you
Yes.
put something out on social media over the weekend that you're trying to help Bryce Harper start his collection. What's that all about, and how's it going?
Yeah, so it was just actually just a little locker room banter here and there. We're talking cards, and Harp goes, "What do you think I could get for like some game used memorabilia trade wise?" And I was like, "Dude," I was like, "People trade me my 101s for game used stuff. Like you could get some cool stuff." And he's like, "All right," he's like, "See what we can get, and I'll get back." So I just mindlessly sent off the tweet, and I didn't realize the wildfire I had started. So I yeah, I haven't. I can't even open Instagram or Twitter right now. It gives me anxiety just scrolling through the notifications. I've had people reach out to me with unbelievable collections. I mean, there's some collectors out there that have almost seven figures worth of harp cards, and
Wow.
it's like I'm not comfortable asking you to give that up for something. And also, there's some requests that people want meet and greets and all this, and it's like, yeah, your card's valuable, but a harp's not. A harp wants a cool collection, and like I found some cards that have cool sentimental value. Cards to me are stories.
Yeah.
So, like I found a card of Harp and Trey sitting on the Oakland Athletics bench at the Coliseum. It's
Okay.
like to me that's a cool card. The Coliseum no longer exists,
Yeah.
and also the backstory of Harper growing up an A's fan.
Yep.
Like that to me is a cool card. Is it a valuable card? Probably not nearly. I mean, no, it's not nearly as valuable as some of his rookie autos, but as a collector of cool cards, I think that was pretty cool. So, I mean, Harp and I need to have a little sit down here and be like, yo, what do you mean by cool? And what are you willing to give up for
Yeah.
these cool cards? So, yeah, I've created a mess. I mean, yeah, that is I did not anticipate what we got. I think my agent texted me like I think I sent the tweet out 3 or 4 hours before a game. And after the game, my agent had said, he's like, dude, I don't know what all this means, but he's like, it has 244,000 impressions on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm like, my goodness. Like, I don't know, like that's a lot of people to me. So,
That sounds
um,
like a lot. Yes.
but I don't think I've opened my Twitter now since this morning or something, but
Yeah.
I got to figure something out.
So it
Well,
sounds
I'll get
like
back
Harp's going
all
to
of you.
have quite a collection on his hands if he's willing to, shake hands, kiss babies, do whatever people want him to do, right?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the other thing is I think I'm going to have to backtrack this a little bit to I'm going to get items from Harper, then post them and see who's
Yeah.
willing to give what for that, and then
Right.
I'll be the middleman, or my card loving brother. I might make the middleman. So he does a lot for me. I'm sure he would love this as well too.
So I was thinking back to your first spring training with the Phillies, and I think maybe the first conversation you and I had, and we talked a little bit about how you collected as a kid and then stopped for a while and then came
Yep.
back to it when you were already in the big leagues. And I'm curious because I'm a little bit older than you, but I did it the same way, collected as a kid,
Yep.
then stopped. Now my son's 9, and I really want to kind of get him into it and maybe build a little collection for him. But the hobby is so much different now than it was when I collected. I'm
Yeah.
curious, how much different did you find it when you went back to it? And, it's a little overwhelming, right? Because
Yeah.
now I feel like it's all about variations and parallels and, one of ones and stuff like that, rather than just we rip open a pack and, hey, look, we got Shohei Ohtani. It's just his
Yep.
regular issue Topps card, and that's like not a thing anymore. So
Right.
how much different is the hobby now from what you remembered?
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, I mean, it was mostly I would get like the team set or the complete set at Christmas, and then kind of use like birthday money and lawn care money to go into the sports card store and buy players individual cards I liked. Now with the hobby boxes and all the other parallels and all this, it's definitely. I mean, I feel like there was 5 rabbit holes to jump down in 1996, and now there's a field that looks like it holds 1,000 prairie dogs, and you don't know which one to jump down and find. But my best advice I have to everyone is collect what you love. I
Yeah.
mean, because like if you look at the history of cards, and they always say history repeats itself, we're gonna have a crash. They're gonna devalue, and then so my opinion is collect what you love so that if it's not worth anything, at least you still love it.
Yeah, that's
It's about as simple as you can get.
that's the most depressing thing about looking at like my childhood collection, which is in my dad's house, right? Like we go back and it's like, hey, we had we had Cal Ripken Jr.'s rookie card. It's valued at nothing anymore because
Yeah.
everyone had it, as it turns out. And it's kind of like, oh, but that's also not the reason why we collected back then either.
Right.
So
Right.
you look at it and
Right.
you say, well, the whole idea was to have. And one of the cooler things that you once told me about your collection, right, is the little like side collection of rookie cards of guys who've taken you deep, right? Is
Yeah,
that
so
still
it started as rookie cards, and then as the market boomed, Freddie Freeman takes me deep, and it's going to cost me $4,000 for a Freddie rookie card, and I was like, I ain't doing that. Like, it's already that's pouring salt in my wound. He took me
right?
deep, and now I got to lose $4,000 out of my pocket for a card. So I quit with the rookie and kind of just went to like unique cards. So I mean, like the Miguel Cabrera card I have from him taking me deep is a dual auto of him and Posey. So
Okay.
like it's just like I've had to backtrack that one too. I bit off more than I could chew, and then all of a sudden, I got 5-figure guys taking me deep, and it's like I can't. I'm not going to buy that card.
Right,
So,
right.
so I've gone to unique cards. If you do like Trevor Story's taken me deep twice, so I got a cool rookie of his. Anthony Santander, I think, got me for a third time last year. So it's like I'll upgrade his a little bit, stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a fun little collection. It all started off of my brother made the comment that it'd be cool to have a binder of everyone I struck out. And to me, that's kind of
That's good.
a little arrogant kind of
Yeah.
like feeling to me. So I was like, I don't like that. I was like, how about I collect someone who takes me deep? And he's like, why would you do that? And then I give him an arrogant answer of, well, if you take me deep, you're worth collecting.
You've earned
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've kind of done that. It's a fun little thing my brother and I have doing, and I also fans have gotten into it where my mailbox at the field will random. I'm sure when I get back, I'll have a Corey Seager card in my mailbox from some fan trying to be funny, which it is funny, but
Right.
it's a little banter the fans have with me now too. I've had people at BP be like, "Hey Matt, I got you a Charlie Blackman." And I'm like, "Thanks." Like,
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other like personal touches? Like, I mean, do you collect North Dakota? You know, there's I think 21 North Dakota born big leaguers, right? Like, is there a North Dakota collection? Is there? I know you're a big Roger Maris guy, right? Like, is there a Roger Maris collection?
So again, going back to like how it's kind of a story to me and all that, like I'm not big into the vintage stuff just because like I never crossed paths with any of them. I never shared a clubhouse with any of them, so it doesn't have that much meaning to me. I'd say like a unique personal collection I have of just myself is any serial numbered card. So one of the parallels numbered to 5. I just love all my 5s. I have a really cool collection of that. I think the other day I counted them up. I have 27 of my 101s, which is kind of cool. Still missing my rookie 101, but
Okay.
I have all the other ones, and I think it's probably lost in a junkyard, got stuck in someone's car seat or something, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it, but and to rip 2017 product, it's too expensive because Aaron Judge is a pretty good baseball player.
Okay. Oh yeah. You know what? I didn't even think of that.
For my rookie year that I want to open, I have to pay a premium because of it's Aaron Judge and also Cody Bellinger's in that rookie class as well. So
Okay.
they drive the market pretty high for a middle reliever to go crack some old wax.
What I've done with my son is, so I said we want to get started on something, so we just collect the team set of the team I covered that year. So like when he was born, I covered the Red Sox. We have the 2016 Red Sox and then forward from there. So I'm still working on the 2025 Phillies. But let me get you out of here on this. I think the last time I asked you this question, the answer was a 1-of-1 signed Pete Alonso. But best pull you've made, and is that still it?
So I think we talked about that in 23 at spring. And then that off season, I think it was, or maybe during that season, I ended up pulling a 1-of-1 Gunnar Henderson rookie auto. So I pulled that out of Pristine, I believe. And it was that's probably my new favorite pull that I've had as a 1-of-1 Gunnar Henderson rookie.
That's pretty good. So like you have the unique, like I can ask you the unique question of what's more satisfying, that Alonso's 0 for 9 with 4 Ks against you, or that you pulled his 1-of-1 autograph. It's, is that a toss up for you, or you're like, well, hey, it depends on the situation of the strikeout?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely satisfying to punch a ticket, but the rarity of pulling a superfractor, at least in my world, the superfractor is a lot more rare than the strikeout. But
like I've struck him out 4 times. There's one.
I don't think anything beats a strikeout for the final out of an inning in Citizens Bank Park. I mean that feeling. I don't know. Never done hard drugs, but I'd imagine it's as addictive as that. So it's something fun, and I mean, punching people out in the bank is probably one of the best feelings in the world.
Well, awesome, Matt. This was a lot of fun, man. Unfortunately, and I always say this, like I feel like there's a tendency for baseball writers to talk to relievers like only after bad things happen. I try not to fall into that trap if I can help it. It's a long season, and I know I do sometimes, but there's never not a good reason to strike up a conversation with you. You're always really generous with your time, and I know you're getting ready for a game here very soon. So thank you, as always, for spending a few minutes with us here at Phillies Extra from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thanks for having me. Of
course, I want to thank Matt Strahm again for joining me this week. For our reporter's notebook, I'll bring in my Inquirer colleague, Lachlan March. Lachlan, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So by the time people listen to this, you and I will have tagged in and tagged out on this 3-city, 10-game, 11-day Phillies road trip. You took the first 2 legs in Texas and Cincinnati, doing the anchor leg in Washington. So I thought we could kind of get together and compare notes, such as it is, about what we're seeing from the Phillies. But first, I have a super important question. What was the highlight from the Snoop Dogg post-game concert in Cincinnati? You seem to enjoy that.
I did enjoy it. It was very distracting while I was trying to write, but I was able to get it done. I just thought it was funny. We were waiting a while for him to come out, and part of me I was not convinced that he was even there because he was supposed to go on the broadcast during the game, and he didn't do that. Apparently, he had a long night in Detroit the night before. So, yeah, I think I was just waiting to see if he was actually going to come out, and when he did, that was the exciting part. I was like, okay, he's actually here. So.
It's so random. I think we can. So now we can list off, like, we've seen Nelly, Snoop Dogg, and Train, because you're going to get Train there in that last game in Cincinnati. It's like, I don't know. I mean, they're bigger names than I expect from post-game baseball concerts, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of more A-list names than you normally see.
Yeah, I also feel like Train is kind of random.
The outlier.
It's very nostalgic. I feel like when I was like younger, I would listen to their stuff on the radio all the time, but it's very different vibe than Snoop Dogg and Nelly. So
yeah, I feel like the Reds are targeting a little bit of a different demographic with the Train post-game concert versus the Snoop Dogg post-game concert, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
All right, bringing it back around to baseball, I'll start with this because to me, it's the only thing that really matters when it comes to the only thing that really matters for the Phillies, which is winning the World Series, and that's Zack Wheeler's health. And it sounds like maybe they dodged a bullet, the proverbial bullet. The MRI was clean on his shoulder. He pitched last weekend in Texas, gave up 2 runs on 3 hits and 7 strikeouts in 5 innings. But I don't know how you feel. Like, for me, until I see him pitch with his usual velocity, 96, 97 instead of 94, 95, I'm not going to believe that they're completely out of the woods. You watched him the other night in Texas. I'm going to get to see him Friday night in Washington, I think. What was your takeaway from that start?
Yeah, I mean, the fastball velocity obviously wasn't there. Honestly, velocity across the board was down, but the fastball specifically, and it was a bit erratic. That's how JT Realmuto described it. So he had to lean a lot on the splitter and the sweeper. The off-speed stuff was okay, and that was what was helping him kind of get through it. But I think Zach, like, he didn't seem concerned after about his velocity. He said he's done this before. I think when your velocity is down, when you're not up 96, 97, like, you have to be a bit more fine with your location. So it makes the job a bit more difficult. But if anyone can do it, obviously that's going to be Zack Wheeler. But yeah, I mean, for me, it is like concerning to see velocity, and it's not just Zach, it's Ranger Suarez is down as well. From what it sounds like Zach just feels like it's just this time of year, like innings are catching up to him. The interesting thing about it is that he's the type of guy who's very strict with his routine, and he likes to pitch on regular rest. But from what it sounds like to me, like, I think he would be willing to go to a 6-man and would understand the benefit of adding in another day of rest. So I think that is just kind of where we're at now. Like, potentially we're trying to pull back on the rotation to make sure that they're all fresh come October. Yeah,
this I can't help thinking a lot about 2022 and how down the stretch Wheeler, they put him on the IL for 3.5 weeks with a forearm, little bit of a forearm twinge, and it was legit. It was real. He was dealing with something, but I remember him saying, like, I could pitch through this if I had to, but it's probably better if I don't. And I think they had to convince him a little bit. They did. He sat for 3.5 weeks. He came back very strong. He made 2 starts at the end of the season. And then, of course, they go on the run all the way to the World Series, and he's awesome. So I think that experience, just knowing him and talking to him about it a little bit over the years, I think one thing that happened during that experience was he and Paul Buchheit, the trainer, grew really close. And I don't know that there's anyone with the Phillies who Zach trusts more or is maybe even closer with. And I think, he takes the recommendations from the training room very seriously. So there certainly doesn't sound like at the point yet where they're like, hey, let's IL him for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But maybe they do get to that point at somewhere along the line, especially if this lead over the Mets continues to grow. I agree with you. Like, I think I fully expect they're going to go to a 6-man rotation, maybe as soon as Aaron Nola gets back, if not shortly thereafter. Because to me, like if Moneyball was all about valuing what's undervalued in the sport, well, then the Phillies' Moneyball advantage is that they've built a rotation that goes 6 deep with veteran starters, and they've leaned on those starters more than any team. And I think they're going to have to lean on those starters a lot in the postseason as well. It's the strength of the roster. It continues to be the strength of the roster, and it has to be that way through October. What that means, to me, is doing whatever's necessary to keep Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, and Ranger Suarez in particular fully operational. Do you kind of get the sense that they'll go to this 6-man maybe as soon as next week?
Yeah, I mean, by the time people are watching this, maybe they're already there because Nola pitched on Tuesday night, and that was also coinciding with Ranger and his kind of tough outing. And right after Rob Thompson brought it up on his own that Nola, struck out 11, and depending on how he recovers the day that we're recording this, which is Wednesday, he could be on the way from Buffalo, which is where Lehigh is. So yeah, potentially we're already there, but I do think it's something very, very soon will be coming. And Rob has said that he thinks it's going to benefit more than just obviously Wheeler and Ranger. Like I think it'll benefit all of them. Like Jesus Luzardo is already, I think, double what he was last year in terms of innings. So I think it's important to keep all these people healthy for the postseason push. And we're getting to the time of year where that becomes really paramount.
I think it's interesting, too, that we're no longer talking about Andrew Painter as the 6th starter in a 6-man rotation. If they go that route, I'm pretty sure it's Taijuan Walker who stays in the rotation. He's pitched well. Painter stays in AAA maybe. You wrote about this a good bit the other day. Is that kind of the impression you get? Do you agree that, maybe July-ish is turning into 2026-ish for Andrew Painter?
Yeah, that's the sense I'm sort of getting. Obviously, like, there could be things that happen that we can't predict. Someone does get injured, or 2 people get injured, something like that, and he obviously he improves. Whatever has been happening with him, like his command has been suffering these past couple starts, and overall, Rob Thompson isn't overly concerned about that. I think it's kind of normal for after someone has Tommy John, like he did, for command to be kind of the last thing that comes back. I think if it was his velocity or something like that, that would be more of a concern. But his stuff is there and the velo's there. It's really just like location. And that's why he's getting hit so hard. But I think the timeline was a bit premature ultimately. But I do think that the Phillies have repeatedly said, even earlier in the year, that they want him to learn how to like fail and adjust. So I think in the bigger picture, the fact that this is happening now is probably better for his development as a player, that he's going to figure out how to, overcome this and get out of situations like that before he's on, the biggest stage at Citizens Bank Park. And then hopefully when it does happen, whether it's, this year, if something happens, or next year, he'll be better prepared for that.
So, of course, they're going to say, he's coming back from major surgery. He missed 2 years, and sometimes it takes a while for the command to come back and all of that. Of course, that's what they're going to say. That's the spin they're going to put on it, because they are, they still think Andrew Painter is going to be an absolute stud pitcher at the top of their rotation. But I kind of looked back the other night as I was watching the game. He had his surgery on July 23rd, 2023, correct? Yes. Yeah. So I was looking back at other pitchers who've had Tommy John right around that time frame. Dustin May, formerly of the Dodgers, now with the Red Sox, had his Tommy John a week earlier. He's back in the big leagues this year, but he's not pitched very well. Sandy Alcantara had his 2 months after Andrew Painter. He is back in the big leagues this year with a 6.5 ERA. So the notion that, like, there's a difference between getting back and then getting back and being who you were, I think is real. I mean, we focus so much on how long did it take the guy to get back, to go from operating table to the mound. Really, the question is, how long does it take to get, from the mound to being who you are and being yourself again? And I do think that, look, there are instances where guys come back from the surgery and bang, they're right there, But there are also a lot of instances where they're not. And I do think this is what the Phillies are saying or hoping is the case for Andrew Painter. But I think there's probably also examples of that's true.
Yeah. And also he's so young. Like he's still kind of would be, even if he hadn't had the surgery, he'd still be learning how to be a pro at this point. He's only, I think, 22, he's like, so yeah, I think the other thing, like, I know I've seen on social media, people are kind of at the point where they're writing him off, which, you can't really take social media as gospel, but to anyone who's like viewing him that way, I think it's important to remember that it's not just the Phillies that are evaluating him this way. Other teams clearly like were interested in him at the deadline, no matter how he's been pitching this year. So other teams are also seeing this value and potential in him. It's not just like one team. So yeah, I think that's important to keep in mind, that he's still viewed as having this really high ceiling as a pitcher.
So for all those people out there who say, oh my gosh, they didn't have to give up Painter for Duran, they should have traded him for Mason Miller and built a super bullpen, like, hold your horses. Like, Andrew Painter's still very much a part of their future. And probably, I could almost see, like, just to take the edge off a little bit for him going into next year, maybe they get to the AAA season ends on September 21st. If he has some innings left before they hit whatever their number is for him, maybe they bring him up late in the season. Maybe he starts like game 162 if they've already clinched the division and potentially a first round bye. I could see them sort of saying, all right, let's make his last start his major league debut. So then that's not hanging over him going into next year. And this debut that we've been talking about for 2+ years is still what we're talking about all winter long. When's it going to happen?
Right.
Is it going to be April-ish, Dave Dombrowski? So I think maybe it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen, depending on where he is in terms of his innings.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think they probably don't want us asking for a timeline again and then them being wrong or something like that. So that could be definitely a possibility.
The other topic I want to touch on before I let you run, because I think it's fascinating, is the division of labor in the outfield. So watching from home during the Texas and Cincinnati series, I was talking to someone that it's almost like Rob Thompson is one of those plate spinners in the circus. He's got 4 outfielders: Marsh, Bader, Kepler, and Wilson. And really, we should say 5, because we should include Nick Castellanos in this, given how he's played and the slump that he's been in now for quite some time. And Rob Thompson's trying to not only balance the plates, but he's also trying to keep them all spinning and involved and productive at the same time. And look, through the last week plus, the 6-game homestand and the first 5 or 6 games of this trip, he's done a pretty good job of it. But like, you're there and you've seen this up close and you've seen the plates spinning. Like, is it sustainable? Like, when do the plates fall or stop spinning? Is he going to have to sort of make an everyday commitment to, like, let's say Marsh and Bader at some point and say, they're my, fairly regular left fielder and center fielder?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny how much like it seemed to have worked so far. Like the outfield that he decides to go with that day for some reason is the one that, is the reason behind the win. Like that was the case in Texas for a couple games, like Weston Wilson, and obviously Harrison Bader, Max Kepler, and Brandon Marsh, that game against DeGrom. So yeah, he's been pushing the right buttons so far, but it's been an interesting kind of, to use your term, division of labor. So he's been mostly sticking to the strict platoon, no matter how well that any given person has been hitting. Like obviously Brandon Marsh has been kind of on a hot streak, but that doesn't mean that he's been getting that many opportunities against lefties, which is always like the enduring question with him. But for some reason, it still seems like it's working out, like the other guys are stepping up. So we'll see how long that kind of lasts. So obviously we've been asking Rob about this pretty much constantly. So he said that it's a day-to-day thing. So I think we could see this continuing on. And then obviously he's not opposed, and he thinks it is important to ride whoever's like swinging a hot bat. But right now it seems like it's mostly everyone. I will say the interesting thing that he did do in Texas was give Nick Castellanos a day off, which is not something that he's done at all this year, as Castellanos has only missed due to like disciplinary reasons or injury. So and those were only 2 games. This is only the 3rd game that he has sat out. And the reason given for that was that it was a pre-planned type of thing, because of like the turf is difficult conditions at Globe Life Field. So he wanted everyone to have one day off, and that was something that he like discussed, and he planned to do that day against DeGrom. But that, I mean, I don't foresee that happening on a necessarily regular basis. Like Rob is pretty insistent that he views Nick as an everyday player, and that he's going to continue to get these opportunities. But it was kind of a, I know the reason that he gave was the turf, but it's not something that he would have done, especially before the Ironman streak was over. But it was also like, it's not something that I necessarily would have seen him do earlier in the season or last year or anything like that. So that was kind of like a interesting kind of diversion in his normal operations. So yeah, so that's the interesting thing for me. And like if that happens once in a while going forward, that'll also be kind of interesting. But for now, it just seems like it's day to day. Every day you get to the park, it's going to be potentially different depending on who you're facing. So I don't know if that's difficult. Like talk to Weston Wilson about it, like knowing he knows his role is starting against lefties, but like obviously it can be tough to get on a roll when you're only playing like very irregularly. But he said that he just keeps to his regular routine no matter what, and just gets ready to go in when he needs to go in. So I think they're all kind of approaching it that way.
Yeah, it's funny, like we talked about Andrew Painter, it's funny how Justin Crawford now isn't on the tip of everyone's tongue all of a sudden. And I can't help thinking that Brandon Marsh is a big reason why. So again, I dug into some numbers the other night, and Marsh was hitless in 31 at-bats, I think, part of an overall 4 for 42 when he went out with the hamstring strain back in April. And I looked this up the other day. He returned on May 3rd. And through, I think I did it through Tuesday night. There were 93 outfielders with at least 200 plate appearances since May 3rd. Marsh was second among the 93 in batting average. He was hitting .310, 14th in on base, 16th in OPS, 841. And while most of that is still coming against righties, that's roughly 70% of your games, right? So it's pretty good production 70% of the time from a guy who's a better left fielder than he is a center fielder. And now he can play left because they have Bader's defense in center. So you look around and it's like, well, where's the path to everyday at-bats for Crawford if Marsh keeps hitting like this? And now you've got a good defensive center fielder in Bader, who's, by the way, I think a better defender in center than Crawford is. As good as Jhoan Rojas was. And we know that was Rojas's calling card. So, again, it's sort of like, can he keep them all going at the same time? I think eventually some of those plates stop spinning, and he's got to kind of figure out, all right, Marsh my everyday left fielder, Bader my everyday center fielder, maybe. And we'll sort of, I don't know where that leaves Max Kepler, because he'd become then a left-handed hitter off the bench. You kind of have Otto Kemp as sort of a right-handed hitter off the bench, maybe Weston Wilson as well in that role. So definitely a lot of moving parts, and it's going to be fascinating to see how long Rob Thompson can keep all four of them productive and playing well. Because I think a productive Brandon Marsh can really be a help down the stretch. And if he continues to hit like this, then he's the player or closer to the player that they thought he would be. So it's going to be worth monitoring for sure.
Yeah, and it's crazy how quickly things shifted. Like, I feel like right before you left, we're all like, half of me was expecting to see Justin Crawford when I walked in the clubhouse in Texas for the first time. But now, yeah, like you said, it's not seeming imminent anymore. And, it's similar and different to Painter's situation. Obviously, like, it's not because of Justin's performance in AAA. He's continuing to hit the ball and play well overall. But it's really just that there's not really at this point an avenue for him. So he's just being
yeah, you and I talked about it, like last Friday in Texas was going to be the day, and he wasn't in the lineup on Thursday, the off day for the Phillies. He wasn't in the lineup for Lehigh Valley, so of course I start freaking out. So I texted a bunch of people I knew were there at Lehigh that day, and someone got back to me like within 10 minutes and was like, he just walked out for stretch, so he is here. And I said, okay, well, if he is there stretching, and they had a doubleheader the day before and he played both games. So I said, all right, well, it makes sense you give him the day off, but of course it sets off alarms. And now, like, not to say that he's not going to get called up, but it's more difficult to see that happening when the outfield looks a little bit more settled in its unsettled state than it was before.
Yeah.
So,
I also was surprised that he would be on the same plane as David Robertson, but he was not. So yeah, he was not. Yeah. They
could have walked arm in arm together through the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, coming to the clubhouse together. That would have been fun. Mm-hmm. All right, we could go on and on, but let's stop there for now. Great work, Lachlan, in Texas and Cincinnati. Safe travels on your way back. I encourage everyone to go back and check out your coverage of those games, your coverage of the past week. I will take the baton in D.C. and bring us home. Thanks again for hopping on today, and I will see you soon, I'm sure, at Citizens Bank Park.
Yes. Thanks so much for having me.
It's time for our last segment. We call this Hit and Run, where we take a question from you out there. There are several ways you can be heard. Drop me an email at slauber@inquirer.com or reach out on the social media platform of your choice, X, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, or, you can even drop a question in the comments section on YouTube as well underneath the episode. This week's question comes from Jabba at Jabba Joe on Blue Sky, who asks, David Dombrowski said he thinks Justin Crawford is ready, yet it seems like they have concerns about his swing mechanics and defense. Do you think he's someone that they're considering for a September call-up, or maybe as their opening day center fielder next year? Thanks, Jabba, for the question. As you can imagine, there's been a lot of conversation about Justin Crawford, not just here among us on this show and out there kind of in the Phillies zeitgeist, but internally as well. Team officials are talking a lot and have been talking a lot for some time now about when's the right time to call up Crawford. I'm not sure concerns is the right word to describe whatever reservations the Phillies have about bringing him up now. But I do think there's a faction in the front office that believes that he could benefit from more development time, especially on the defensive side of things. I definitely think they envision Crawford in the outfield mix next season, preferably in center field, I think, with Brandon Marsh in left. And maybe they look to do something different in right field, especially with Nick Castellanos going into the last year of his deal. The idea of calling up Crawford in September is interesting, but bear this in mind. September roster expansion isn't what it used to be. Active rosters go from 26 players to only 28, with a 14-pitcher maximum. Most teams bring up one pitcher and one position player. That's it. Also, the AAA season now runs through September 21st. So if you have someone in AAA who needs to play every day, and Crawford certainly fits that description, it's more likely that you'll keep that player in AAA instead of sitting him on the bench in the majors. Ideally, you'd want to make sure that the extra position player that you bring up has a role. Maybe the Phillies simply recall Weston Wilson or Otto Kemp, whichever one winds up getting sent back down when Alec Boehm comes off the injured list. I think there's a path back to the majors for Johan Rojas in a September call-up fashion as strictly a defensive replacement, probably for Castellanos. In any case, I think you target that extra roster spot for someone who would serve a specific purpose. And unless someone gets injured or they finally cut bait with Max Kepler, I can't see them calling up Crawford to sit there on the bench most of the time when he could be playing and getting a few more weeks of regular at-bats for Lehigh Valley. Okay, we'll leave it there and tell you that every episode of Phillies Extra, 27 and counting, is available by going to Inquirer.com and clicking on the Inquirer Live tab or on the Inquirer's YouTube page or Facebook page. You can also listen to this episode, take it wherever you go. You can listen to this one and others on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's a great way to catch up on any episodes that you might have missed. And while you're there, please give us a follow, rate, and review us. We want to hear from you. Thanks again to my guest, Phillies reliever Matt Strahm, and my colleague, Lachlan March. Thank you, too, to our producer, Angelica Irizarry, for making sure the show looks and sounds good every week. But most of all, thanks so much to you out there for listening, watching, and, of course, for reading the Philadelphia Inquirer.